Guys, I need support in this red building. There's a guy in it.
The enemy Katyusha is
Fuck's sake, hold a second. Just keep him in now, throw another frag in. He just fucking...
Psych! Psych! Psych!
Hello, dear viewer. Did I turn up at a bad time? Today's topic, indentured servitude. So there I was, fornicating with your mother, and it was as I reached the climax, 10 seconds in, I was overcome with a potent hatred of my own body. An unshakable resentment of my limbs clouded my mind. If only there was some form of voluntary occupation in which I could, of my own volition, have my legs blown off by an anti-personnel landmine in a remote location somewhere in the arid desert. As this thought crossed my mind, the targeted advertising that has been tracking my personal life for the last 23 years offered me what I was looking for. Men and women sporting battle dress uniforms of the British Armed Forces, reassuring me that membership of their exclusive militant club came with a lot of perks. Do you want to become an electrician? Do you want to see the world? Do you want to, maybe, play football? These are things only possible when wearing polyplat fatigues. Esports is another military exclusive amenity. June 30th, 2020, the US Army Esports opens the doors to its Discord server. Another peaceful example of hearts and minds, of valiant soldiers connecting with the many citizens they sought to protect. Look at the adoration on display here. Simply remarkable. How odd it would be if, right in the middle of their chat rooms, one of them randomly informed the community that it was being run by the Marketing and Engagement Brigade at Fort Knox for the purpose of recruiting more soldiers. Even weirder would be, only 2 weeks later, Twitch having to admonish the United States military for posting fake prize giveaways for Xbox Elite controllers that directed recipients to their respective recruitment pages. If this had happened, oh boy, I would start wondering if maybe something was going on. Maybe the fact these advertisements only ever decorate themselves as social clubs to make friends and travel the world and never utter a word about the fundamental duty of killing someone with government-sanctioned impunity during imperialist conquests. This might be a deliberate ploy. Regardless, there is one small flaw in this hypothetical approach. Being in the army means going outside, and last I checked, my Discord kittens got me on house arrest. Unable to vacate my lovely abode, I turned to the next best thing to emulate my desire for warfare's body-rending carnage.
Pick you up.
What the? Oh shit. Squad. Squad is a tactical first-person shooter that makes a purposeful effort to establish itself in realistic theatres of war, developed by Off-World Industries, featuring skirmishes of combined arms warfare across the globe, in snow, sand, and soil. I fucking cornered, man. This multiplayer-centric title has been refined throughout its many years of existence and come to define part of the popular zeitgeist surrounding grounded military shooters such as Arma and Hell Let Loose. After taking a couple hundred hours to familiarize myself with this game, I have reached a scientifically robust conclusion. I love this game. I really love this game. But then, as I type out that sentence, my brain chemistry undergoes a drastic transformation as I remember a gang of LAVs molesting my squad spawn point for an entire match because we made the fatal error of deciding to play squad that evening. I hate this game. I really hate this game. In truth, dear viewer, all I truly feel about squad are the tears rolling down my face. Are they tears of happiness? Are they tears of sorrow? That is what we are here to find out. So sit back, hike for 3 hours just to get shot by your own team. Are you alright, man? Did the image recognition that's come with millions of years of evolution not function for you there? What the fuck was that? And fight to contain self-destructive urges as you watch the morons in your lobby pick a Gorodok for the 20th match in a row. Because I'm about to explain why squad makes me want to cry. When we have discussions about shooters such as Squad, beholden to the genre of military simulation, it is synonymous with one single word: realism. An estimation of how well a specific game parallels our own existence and consequently what determines the quality of the provided experience. In this specific instance, the term realistic is used as an adjective to describe military games that best resemble a real-world equivalent to what modern warfare really is, and how its gameplay reflects the tactics incorporated on the battlefield to make the best use of the contemporary arsenals available. It contends against the word immersion and its adjective compatriot immersive for being the most annoyingly overused and weirdly fetishized term when mentioned in relation to video games, which, to my infinite intelligence, shows a very fundamental misunderstanding of its benefits to a game's design. Realism, as a popular term, is constantly viewed as an aesthetic more than anything else, where often a game's eligibility to be tagged with this title comes down to a simple veneer imposed over a pre-existing work that isn't necessarily linked to it in its mechanics. Something like Modern Warfare 2019 can claim to be realistic because its arsenals of weapons closely resemble its real-life counterparts, their reload mechanisms are similar, and the uniforms of the combatants make use of well-known and commonly used get-ups found in theatres of war. This was, of course, only possible in a pre-Nicki Minaj skin timeline.
I love the kind of woman that will actually just...
Despite this level of admirable detail in these aspects, the cutting edge of AAA polish, these games couldn't be further from what realism actually is. Games like these make use of historic wartime aesthetics, yet undermine them with a dissonant gameplay style of callous running and gunning that is encouraged through a menagerie of mechanics such as quickly regenerating health, fast reloads drawing from bullet pools, and tantamount infinite sprint. Any errors that lead to your demise are undercut by swift respawn timers that get the player back into the action. This best appeals to a mainstream casual audience who want to be involved in chaos and carnage for as much time as possible, even when they are continuously losing. There's no greater dissonance to this exemplifying my argument here than Battlefield 1. For all intents and purposes, I regard this installment as one of the best of the franchise. It may very well be the subject of its own video essay, in which I leak the address of every single assault class player using the SMG 818, but right now, it's on display for a different reason. When Battlefield 1 released, it became a talking point regarding a specific practice in the genre that game studios used when depicting the world wars in shooter games. World War I is a conflict renowned for its stagnation, a world-spanning campaign once anticipated to have been resolved within months that stretched on for 4 years in which opposing factions squatted in filthy trenches where they got skill issued by rats and their delicious range of lethal diseases. It's also a war that was waged with rather primitive ballistic weaponry in comparison to what we have now, with a lot of the mainline infantry being given bolt-action rifles, while the more illustrious automatic weapons were either cumbersome machine guns requiring multiple soldiers to crew them, or just concepts that never really left the drawing board. Despite this, Battlefield 1 is a 64-player shooter that functionally is not that different to its previous installment, Battlefield 4, where, depicting a fictional modern conflict between Russia, America, and China, you run and gun in the exact same way with weapons that, while they look different, are still fully automatic approximations of assault rifles and submachine guns you often see in other titles. In a war renowned for how static it was, for how it resembled a stalemate for years on end, its most popular video game depiction displays an antithesis of soldiers charging mindlessly everywhere, with mass-produced fully automatic weaponry that hardly ever saw active combat on any front across the globe. Evidently, the fact it is the most popular World War I shooter comes down to these choices here. More realistic depictions like the antiquated Verdun, the slightly less old Beyond the Wire, and even the more recent Isonzo are left in its shadow because, while they are more faithful to the sort of vulnerable trench-hugging advances that caricaturized the war's legacy, it appeals to less people, and ergo appeals to fewer wallets. Conveniently enough, this was also a lesson Battlefield 1 had to learn. For some time, a specific mode called Standard Issue Rifles became talk of the town, where each faction would use their characteristic bolt-action rifle to better emulate the sort of combat World War I involved. Notice how I've spoken about it in the past tense, dear viewer, because it remains nowhere to be seen, like a particularly irresponsible father going to fetch some milk. Battlefield 1's decision to retain its run and gun style, even when it is rather dissonant with the theatres it takes place within, is rooted in a core belief, one that makes use of a second word often associated with the likes of Squad and its contemporaries. Snoozefest, Dollsville, Resident Sleeper. Boring. These games are boring. To the average person, and likely some of you watching right now, Squad is a game that 40-year-old fathers play once a week to forget about their affectionless marriage and drown their sorrows in military LARP. It's a digital realm for unemployed armchair generals to take 30 minutes to clear 10 feet of open ground. It's a glorified VR chat world in which you get to molest a machine gun's tight mechanical hole for 5 minutes every time you fire a single shot. It's a walking simulator in which you hold Shift W for the majority of the match just to be picked off by people you never even see. Hey, this is just and I'm dead. It's unfun, annoying, and appeals to a very specific niche of sadists who likely were raised on a diet of cement and nails. Dear viewer, it may surprise you to know that I don't completely disagree. Tactical shooters, and military simulation as a whole, I have found time and time again to be an uninteresting genre. Its adherence to realistic portrayals of war means the same setting is depicted the exact same uninteresting Unity asset flip method over and over again, differentiated only by the speed of which they hemorrhage their player counts after Blue Drake, Karmakoot, and Operator Drewski have already made their videos playing them. Aside from a handful of worthwhile titles that were first to the gold rush, most of these are poorly made and not worth playing at all. Uninteresting and derivative titles emulating the same concept over and over again. But this is part of the point. You see, dear viewer, I was once like you, a young rapscallion, foolish and ignorant. Unknowingly weaned onto the arcade mainstream, and my experience of a world forever limited by its enduring taint. My first experiences of Squad left me displeased and disenfranchised. I was livid, encumbered with rage. I watched all those nano videos for this? Outlandish. But it was after I watched some episodes of Moydog's Squad commentary matches that something was kindled within. A yearning. A desire that coveted what those players had. It had to be mine. Booting up Squad for the first time in a solid year, I held my breath and delved deep into what was still touted as this generation's definitive military simulation.
Oh, you're awake. Well, your teeth are finished, and your gums should be here by the end of the week.
Where's my dick at? Where?
It was at the witching hour of 3 AM, after consecutive hours squadding at my PC, that I resurfaced as a new man. Remade an Off-World Industries image, I yearned for more. More calamity, more carnage, more cacophony. I was rid of my dissent, and in its place, the embers of an addiction had been kindled. At this moment of my rebirth, I realized something. Squad was more than an aesthetic, more than a cumbersome gameplay style, more than a digital LARP. Donning realism as a mantra, Off-World Industries aimed to create an online shooting experience truly different from its casual contemporaries by focusing combined arms gameplay around one key phrase. PTFO. Boot up any of the classic shooters, your Halos, your Call of Duties, your Battlefields, and you'll often note that your success is tied to one thing: kills. The most popular modes in these games revolve around murdering opponents faster than they murder you to reach an arbitrary score to claim victory. It's a metric that rewards individual success, which unsurprisingly is insanely popular. It means often your victory or defeat is down to your ability, and the objective of just killing enemies both provides a visual feedback that makes winning fights enjoyable, and allows you to approach playing in a way that best befits your own idea of fun. Comparatively, objective-oriented game modes aren't favoured nearly as much. The likes of Call of Duty's Search and Destroy centres its premise upon static objectives that determine your success, meaning a sense of obligation emerges where you have to forsake pursuing engaging firefights to instead babysit a box for a few minutes with no guarantee of action coming your way. Some of you may have just raised an eyebrow to challenge this reasoning. Search and Destroy is synonymous with Call of Duty's identity, and arguably its long-standing appeal, but to use it to claim there is little appetite for objective-oriented gameplay in war shooters is just incorrect. The likes of Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six Siege alone are an active contradiction to this statement, and the notorious digital reigns of Marvel Rivals and the SFM porn game that dominated beforehand continue to undermine it. At a glance, this would seem irrefutable. My career as an internet pissant would be over long before I got the necessary clout to shill a cryptocurrency and scam all of you, just like the many greats that have tread the path before me. But think, dear viewer, think really hard. Are objectives in these games often the player's prime directive, or are they just augmentations of a bloodshed we already yearn for? Objective zones in Overwatch and Marvel Rivals really just serve to herd players together so they can beat the shit out of one another, the same way circles and battle royales would bring players closer to force them to take aggressive action that made gameplay more interesting. These games each focus on the importance of objective play to differing degrees, but ultimately still cater to this individualistic metric of success. Often rounds in these games are won because you wipe out the enemy team long before anyone has a chance to plant a bomb or secure a point, where the sanctity of one's virgin KD is sometimes prized higher than claiming a round for the team. Objectives in many of these games really serve as ways to structure TDM matches in specific styles, rather than actually trying to stimulate any form of strategy that supersedes a player's hunger to get the most kills and bag the most clout. In titles that hold a greater focus on objective-oriented gameplay, players may still ignore them to focus on getting kills, even to the team's own detriment. The phenomenon of spawn peeking or spawn rushing in Rainbow Six Siege, where a player on the defending team compensates for their lack of meaningful human relationships by sprinting into the attacker's spawn and killing half the team in a blink of an eye, is indicative of this exact problem. Players don't want to be the anchor babysitting the bomb sites and risk doing nothing for a few minutes, so their desperation for stimulation make them not just roam the map, but run outside of it just so they don't have to suffer the mediocrity of their own lives for a moment longer. The fact a lot of the time this doesn't even work and people still keep trying to do it is a testament to this desperation. I already brought this up in a Ready or Not video, and I'm bringing it up again, because evidently people thought it was just an inoffensive tangent and not a deliberate call to arms. These people need help, dear viewer. And induced euthanasia is all the rage nowadays. The point is, trying to get players to participate in a game that favours objective play, something that requires a semblance of teamwork, is hard. Very hard. It's no wonder few games bother when the market already reflects the lengths gamers will go to avoid their fellow man. Yet, despite that, Squad did not shy away from this challenge. Watching their Welcome to Squad video on YouTube works as quite an admirable mission statement. The narrator goes to great lengths, explaining how the game has been designed to encourage players to work as a cohesive unit instead of an isolated participant. Unfortunately, Squad's approach to encouraging team play is multifaceted, an entity that is the sum of its parts, tweaked and tuned over the years since initial release, so explaining this fully takes a little more than a few minutes. This is where the love of hearing my own voice rises to the occasion. Where better to commence forth than with the broadest of Squad's broad strokes, the game modes.
Enemies are coming south with a south gates. I just got one. South gates.
Hello, how are you?
In every server known to man, you will participate in matches, known as game layers, of 3 different styles: Advanced and Secure, Random, Advanced and Secure, and Invasion. If you see anything else online mentioning alternative game modes, don't worry, no one plays them, so you're not missing out. This has been the approach to Ubisoft games for a long time, and it's only improved our shared quality of life. There's no reason to stop now. The common aspects of these game layers are as follows. 2 factions, populated by 50 players each, compete for control of several objective locations across the map. This can occur anywhere from a snow-laden region of Greenland or a sizzling cramped city out in a Middle Eastern desert. Your mission is to seize control of as many objectives as you can while denying your enemy the chance to do the same. These command points in the Advanced and Secure series of game layers are chained together, and only those connected can be taken by either team, creating a tangible front line between opposing players. This meaningless war is waged in the name of the most valued resource known to man: tickets, the lifeblood of your faction. Doing your best to earn tickets, all the while denying the enemy a chance to do the same, will grant you victory. You are likely rolling your eyes right now. Battlefield already did this, and Battlefield lets you play as the really hot non-binary wingsuit person while doing so. What gives, Dogman? It's interesting you point that out. You see, Squad owes its conception to the Battlefield franchise. During the life of Battlefield 2, a niche community emerged that wished to cherish the tension and strategical thinking of tactical shooters that led to the creation of a Project Reality mod, a separate experience of Battlefield 2 that peeled away the arcade element to emulate a better approximation of realistic combat's slower pace. Squad is tantamount a standalone modern iteration of a Project Reality mod, so its reliance upon the similar ticket arrangement is of little surprise to anyone. Where it diverges from its ancestor is what makes it interesting. In Battlefield, a soldier death costs a ticket, and holding a lesser proportion of the objectives means the team will bleed tickets faster. In Squad, a soldier's death is not the only thing that costs a ticket. The many vehicles made available to your faction incur an even greater loss when destroyed. This means where Battlefield vehicles were just extensions of the infantry's abilities, where jets were often just used as kamikaze planes because few knew how to fly them well at all,
Holy fuck.
Squad vehicles became valuable individual assets. Incorporating them involved assessments of risk and reward, because using them to beeline to the nearest fight has an extremely adverse effect on you and your team. Destroying unmanned enemy vehicles becomes even more important than killing enemy combatants, because they are free tickets deducted from the opposing team's score without much cost to your faction. If a tank is callously used and destroyed, 15 tickets, the equivalent of 15 individual players, is lost. But what does this matter? Vehicles are still ultimately operated by players, meaning engaging them to score better for the team still revolves around what the other games do, focusing on killing. You'd be right, dear viewer, if not for one complication: the objectives. In the Advanced and Secure series, you can't rush ahead to take an objective further along the line without those being taken at the back. This is a process colloquially known as back capping, where members of a team will focus on securing the first points to then unlock the others for those ahead to then take in the hopes of a swift advance. Doing so awards 20 tickets per capture, more than the value of a tank, and this is just for initially securing the neutral flags. Taking an enemy's position scores your team 3 times as much, worth the equivalent of 4 tanks. In the long run, the costs of casualties and destroyed vehicles can stack to significant amounts, but remember, you are in a war of attrition with the opposing faction. More often than not, you are taking casualties at the same rate. Securing objectives means you can cash a significant chunk of change that will elevate your team's ticket count above the enemy's, greatly improving your odds of victory and putting your foes off balance. Even squad spawn points subscribe to this system. Radios placed by squad leaders are used to establish forward operating bases, known as FOBs, also as FOBs, for team-wide spawning. We'll dig into this more in a later section, but these radios are able to be destroyed by opponents for 20 tickets a pop, the equivalent of a neutral flag capture, and still more than taking down a tank. Often besieging an FOB means a firefight with those nearby, which some may suggest is sought out just for mindless action, but you would be wrong. When attacking an FOB, locating and destroying the radio doesn't just take away tickets, but denies the enemy a lucrative spawn position they can use as a staging area to attack an objective. This is what I'm talking about, dear viewer. Squad, at its most fundamental levels, is a game designed with the objective in mind, where the success of your team is determined on the importance of a PTFO mindset. Instead of the objectives existing just to structure TDM lobbies a certain way, they are the sole key to your team's success. You are not gunning down foreign warfighters because that's the only reason you're playing, you're doing so because that's the only way to keep the control point safe and protect your team's assets. I've partaken in matches that were complete steamrolls because the enemy faction were too busy chasing gunfights in irrelevant areas, meaning their lack of an objective-oriented approach set them back too much to ever be able to recover from. Booting up a match of the Advanced and Secure series involves you in a war where these magical zones marked on a map are more than just arbitrary positions used to stage engagements in a certain way. It begets strategy, provokes a tactical mind, and makes the horrible business of war actually carry a semblance of mechanical meaning. Random Advanced and Secure is my personal favourite, a variation where objectives are only revealed after capturing the next one, because it then means rushing ahead couriers a greater risk if you guess wrong, but also greater reward through getting an FOB setup before the enemy if you guess right. This is only possible through a good grasp of game sense, a player skill that is qualified through more than just endlessly gooning to aim trainers. But wait, there's more. This wouldn't be much on its own if players were still the typical gung-ho akimbo-wielding characters capable of frantic sprints across the entire map, rushing off on their own due to the self-sufficiency of regenerating health and swift reloads. This, dear viewer, is where the tears of ambiguous origin start to flow.
Oh yeah, got it. Yep, no, oh, no, get down. Shit. Okay, not good. Okay, don't don't put the radio in here.
Since the dawn of the Stone Age, mankind has realised one thing. Our species suffers from a biological skill issue. Easily filtered by savage wildlife and preyed upon by nature, humanity alone stands little chance. I once knew a girl in primary school who, unbelievably, had an allergy to grass. She would not have survived this era of the internet. But by putting our heads together, uniting through adversity, we have realised the important lesson of monkey together strong. Meaning we have learned the subsequent lesson that monkey together gets really fucking annoying. This has never been more apparent than with the internet, where people wielding the intellectual might of a slightly damp cinder block continue to make their stupidity my problem. I don't know about you guys, but at this point, I'm starting to think Keemstar just isn't very bright. We don't partake in digital communication for the fun of it, dear viewer, but for the social necessity. Clout deprivation disease is not pretty. Your hairline tries for divorce, your Twitter timeline calls for your death, and your online presence is forever tainted by the tramp stamp of stake gambling advertisements on every post. We don't want communication, but we damn well need it. This social phenomenon has never been better paralleled than through Squad's mechanical arrangement.
What squad are you? What squad are you? What number?
There's a domestic dispute on the road between two tanks. Prior to September 2023, Squad's infantry gameplay wasn't too demanding. Recoil was manageable, stamina was easily recovered, and suppression wasn't that debilitating. This meant even individual soldiers could easily pose a significant threat to groups of enemies, and thusly, there was little reason for people to stick in cohesive groups. People had the means to rush off elsewhere and be a menace with little consequence. In a game where just one shot can down you, this becomes a precarious situation. Because players have to spawn at FOBs, and often it can take some time to redeploy, this means that being killed creates a significant window for the enemy to be extremely aggressive and overwhelm their opponent. Melee combat in games is often more interesting because you have multiple moves at your disposal. There are ways to parry and counter incoming attacks that create an engaging back and forth between combatants, even when it only takes one well-placed swing to kill you. Ranged combat doesn't really allow for that when it's just a matter of pointing and clicking. I'm friendly here, friendly.
Maybe we can...
Wait a minute!
Couple this with the fact players could become one-man armies with minimal hindrance, and it created a gameplay loop where the strategical paradigm was using ceaseless aggression to beat the enemy into submission. Front lines could fold in seconds, and when they did, you needed to keep moving at all times. This is where Off-World Industries decided enough was enough, and introduced the Infantry Combat Overhaul in September 2023, also known as the ICO. This took the concept of suppression and overdosed it on anabolic steroids. Yeah, if you could drop an ammo... Fuck, I can't see right now. The ICO was at first a very contentious creation. One night the game worked a certain way, and the very next it worked completely differently. My time spent on Squad has mostly occurred in a post-ICO world, so I can't really call bullshit on initial protests. Apparently the ICO mechanics were way overtuned on launch and were better balanced over time. However, I can state now, without a doubt, the ICO was exactly the tweak necessary to counteract this issue. Sprinting around like a madman wasn't advisable, as stamina depletion would have severe ramifications for your aim stability. This is indicated by the two squares above your compass. The wider the gap, the less stable your gun is, and the more shit your aim will be. Here I am missing several shots on this stationary player because I was running for the last few minutes.
What are you aiming at? What are you aiming at?
This meant that sprinting was less a way of traversing the battlefield and more a strategic resource to be reserved for mad dashes across open ground or rapid movement to get around enemies. This became one of the core arguments opposing the ICO. Players felt like their own agency had been stripped away, where they felt more immobile and impotent on their own. The efficacy of suppressing fire made it so foes boasting greater numbers could easily pin you down and retaliate, making sneaking off on your own to ambush the enemy not as powerful an approach. The lackluster sprint meant running off on your own would leave you winded and ultimately unprepared to fight any enemies you stumbled across while moving. Alone, your imposed impotence made you incapable. This relates back to the idea of realism as an aesthetic, because most people may point out that this isn't realistic. This is my point exactly. Yes, running a while with heavy guns and equipment can be exhausting and will affect your aim, but guns are also designed to work with as little recoil as possible. Recoil has increasingly become more of a media phenomenon than anything conducive to the reality of operating a single-fire rifle. Squad didn't adopt this premise of realism, this theatre of conventional modern warfare, just because they wanted to placate people who are addicted to playing the most boring shit imaginable. No, they chose this because it best caters to a gameplay style that invokes strategy and thought, something that both makes the gunplay meaningful and also introduces that critical social phenomenon. Communication. Your neck is so long, bro. What the fuck? Communication became vital for any affirmative action to be taken by the team. Spotted an enemy FOB? You want your squad mates nearby to help assault the position. Needed to get to the next point fast? You can hop in a friendly transport truck driven by your squad leader, or have your squad leader radio your team's helicopter pilot to pick you up. Engaged by enemy armor? You'll need to let your own friendly vehicles know so they can head on over and pulverize the threat. Want to bombard a position with artillery? The commander will need squad leaders to place down fire mission requests on the map so they can authorize explosive force. If anything needs to be done, it will only ever be done as a team. This is embellished further by the comms system.
I'm over here stroking my dick.
Squad mates can radio each other, but only the squad leader can then relay information to other squad leaders and their team's nominated commander. These obstacles, including the impotence of the individual player, creates a desperate need to source strength in collaboration with their comrades. The delegation of utility is integral to the success of this design, and this is especially important with the game's class system. One of the biggest gripes held about Battlefield 2042's infamous implosion was that they made the player far more self-sufficient. The removal of fixed classes, along with the use of operators instead, meant an important part of Battlefield's identity had been stripped away, and in turn, it removed an interesting element of Battlefield's design. Medics were vital to keeping a push going by reviving fallen comrades, support resupplied ammo for explosives and laid down suppressing fire. Assault snorted rails of Adderall before destroying the entire map, and snipers stood at the back pretending to be important. Your classes excelled at some things, but weren't capable of doing everything, meaning a diversity of roles would best benefit your squad. The fact anyone could revive other players without a dedicated medical kit and that anti-tank weaponry wasn't locked to a specific loadout anymore meant you could do everything for basically nothing. Maybe to some that's a lot more fun, but it eliminates any need to communicate with your own squad mates in a game, and that was already so light in that aspect. So seeing Squad's class system, and the need for communication it created, helped to alleviate the grief I felt. A squad of infantry players will be comprised of 9 soldiers, led by one squad leader who can then divide the grunts into individual fire teams. Armor squads are usually smaller, with just a lead crewman, and helicopter squads are the only ones typically allowed to be solo-locked, inhabited by a lead pilot. Often in these games, the basic class, the rifleman, is seen as the least valuable and ignored to better focus on the more exotic classes. Not in Squad. Riflemen are like the accountants of the squad. Along with their all-rounded warfighting kit, they come equipped with ammo bags that then help to fund the extravagant explosive lifestyles of your light anti-tank and heavy anti-tank kits, lats and hats respectively. Specialist roles like hats, machine gunners, and combat engineers are limited because of their immense value in their respective fields of battlefield destruction. Dependent on what a squad plans to do, if they're backcapping the starting flags or pushing behind enemy lines to lay mines on the road, a need for communication is created in coordinating who picks what. This is modified by the asymmetry of the factions. The Middle Eastern insurgents have poorer armor and no air assets, but in turn have far better infantry capabilities with the likes of a Raider's exclusive submachine guns for CQB or the Ambush's cell phone IED. Their ability to also use the rally points of other squads, squad-specific spawn zones, grants them greater mobility compared to the conventional armies they face. The one-shot kill nature of squads' engagements means they have more room to play with asymmetry because, really, there's not much you have to balance if everything is as lethal as the other. During rounds where you select your faction and the map to play on, you're granted many options in a proportion of armor, logistics, and air vehicles, so you can all decide which one will be the best for the upcoming match. Of course, with gamers, communication has never been more important than to espouse racism, deservedly directed towards one specific class, the sniper.
Sniping's a good job, mate.
While every other class provides invaluable utility to the team, the sniper's only contribution is self-centered and only elevates the individual's ability to do fuck all. It is an affront to the PTFO mindset, and, if you pick it, you have become an ontological evil of which all abuse directed your way is consequently justified. Off-World Industries' decision to implement the ICO has genuinely improved Squad for the better. Because you rely so much more upon your own team, and gunfights last longer as a result of swinging aim and bouts of suppressing fire, front lines endure. Firefights between cover persist for minutes at a time. Squads have to fight to flank around their enemy, and if they want to directly push a position, they'll need to coordinate the use of smoke to blind their foes. Any shooter game that has a meaningful use of smoke grenades that doesn't just include them for the polite formality of being a realistic shooter already nets a lot of respect in my book. Only in a game where smoke is actually viable to make use of is there a semblance of strategy involved. However, some of you may be squad virgins, legs trembling as you're presented with so much, yet wield little knowledge of what to do as a rookie. I've got you covered, dear viewer. In a game where you are often killed by fuck all, didn't even try and fucking come back for him. Pick the medic. Medics are one of the most beloved classes in any squad, and they are best realized here. When you go down, you are put in an incapacitated state for a set timer until you bleed to death. Any soldier, regardless of class, can make use of their field dressings to stem the bleeding and get you back on your feet. However, this takes quite a while, and this will leave you in a near-death state where, if you go down again, you're not getting back up. Even when your vision clears and you're able to endure another shot, your stamina regeneration is impacted and you are considerably fragile. This also means the person who healed you has one less field dressing to use in case they get shot and need to stop themselves bleeding. The medic, usually at the cost of a few fragmentation grenades, is given a plethora of smokes to cover exposed allies and then drag them to safety. They have 9 field dressings, which are applied far quicker than any other class, accompanied by a medkit that can nurse revived comrades back to full health in a few seconds. If riflemen are accountants for the excessive spending of lats and hats, stats, medics are the bookkeepers for decisive action. This role is perfect for new players because you always have plenty of idiots to revive, meaning there's always something to do, and along the way it allows you to learn of how to locate where enemies are shooting from so you can fire back. It also means when you get shot, you can easily heal and recover from it. Stay the course, young one, and you shall soon realize that squad, sometimes, can be very fun. Keep your guns up, gentlemen, we got contact. I love being cringe like that. So pray tell, Smug Rubric, you've gone to such lengths to explain how Squad creates a need for communication and thusly creates a lot of fun. So why is it you cry like a little bitch? The best answer is often the simplest, dear viewer. An increased reliance on other people can create an increased reliance on their impressive stupidity. No, friendly, bro! Bro, you killed me! I am part of a community on Squad known as the 44th Royal Anglian Battalion. I religiously play on their servers, because it's only here that my suicidal urges are made to surface the least. The name claim rules for vehicles make sense, squad leaders are required to have microphones, and it's generally expected that even new players will strive to be communicative. The 44th host training and social events to both better acquaint you with the basic mechanics of the game, as well as foster a closer community. Take this footage here, for instance, where a grizzled British man delivers a point-by-point demonstration of how to best react to incoming enemy fire and continue moving despite it.
I'm going to call something out. As soon as you think you know what it is, you're going to fire on it. So, 005, 100 meters, right-hand side blue truck.
Before accusations of sponsored glazing are levied in the comments, I am not plugging the 44th as part of some deal. I am doing so because genuinely I have a lot of fun on their servers and I want people to also have as much fun with Squad as I do. To support my assertion that I am not a shill, here's an anecdote about the leader of the 44th known as General Ted. I played with him once during a match on Yehorivka, one of the most popular game layers in Squad, where we played as the mighty PLA fighting to stop the American tyrants placing a tariff on oxygen. General Ted leads us into combat, we engage the enemy on the point, and the moment things go awry, he says, "Fuck this," and leaves the game. Contemptible, cowardly, conceited. How could this man betray the trust of his own countrymen? I'd never do that. That was until I led a squad of randoms and, edging a ruptured blood vessel, I alt-F4'd for the first time in my life. This is why the tears flow, dear viewer, because communication is all well and good until you have to encounter a bunch of blueberries.
She is such a bad bitch, though!
A blueberry in the community is a colloquialism used to describe random players distinguished by their inclination towards being a complete twat. Individuals not involved in the 44th that inadvertently cause mischief, mayhem, and mania through their digital inadequacy. So while it's very nice to have someone teach me the most effective way to react to incoming fire through a detailed slideshow, the other people in my squad often don't particularly give a fuck. For instance, many of those hooligans like to spam this button here when they're down. What they don't realise is instead of it being call medic, it is kill medic. Enemies can't hear your voice chat, so calling out on comms isn't overheard, but they can hear this button push. Blueberries, seeking instant gratification and one of the worst games for it, spam this thing like no tomorrow if someone is nearby. This means if one of my teammates presses this button, an attentive enemy will realise I'm nearby and keep their gun ready. I often inform them of this, to which they see the few starting letters of my username, a neuron fires, and they continue to spam it so that I die with them. Yeah, they're definitely fucking close! This doesn't hold a candle to the pains of squad leading. Every player feels the same way, which is why, at the start of every match, without fail, no one creates an infantry squad for the first minute of prep time and waits to see who caves to the pressure first. This is because playing as a squad leader can usually be likened to chaperoning a gaggle of babies who already have decided they're kind of fed up with life. Here I am on top of this objective, having dragged my squad along kicking and screaming to actually do something of value and attack a point, when I am ambushed by a Canadian on the roof. I engage, expecting support, just to check the map and see they are all standing on the far opposite of the objective, exploring one another's bodies. To this day, I'm unsure if I'm more hurt by the flagrant disregard for the game they paid money for, or the fact I wasn't invited. Being the commander often means you are responsible for setting up additional FOBs and coordinating their logistical resupply. Constructing bases costs construction points, while the ammo used to resupply at spawn costs ammunition points, both of which are vital to maintaining your momentum. No ammunition means no rockets, no bandages, no grenades, no smokes, and ultimately, no tickets. Oh, 53 tickets, man! But, as a wise man once said, everyone wants to spawn on the FOB. No one wants to build it. To which an even wiser man said, if we lose, we all blame the commander. And if we win, it was because of us, not the commander. Is this to say that it's impossible to have a good time as a squad leader or commander? No. To get something, you often have to risk something. Sometimes I have infantry squads willing to hold points while others go on the offensive. Other times, the entire team decides to molest a locked objective. Sometimes I play random advance and secure, where you have people volunteer to see to the back cap and make FOBs so we can advance. Other times we don't get past the first objective because we have one guy on his own back capping while everyone else beelines into the enemy and dies without putting up an FOB. Blueberries always keep you guessing on where a match is going to go and whether or not you want to live anymore. Squad is a shooter that asks something of its players, that highly prizes communication and coordination, reflected in how a cohesive unit triumphs many a time over a disorganized and complacent foe. It's a game that actually means something when it mentions combined arms warfare, where participants of all warfaring disciplines have to work together to complete a common goal. It affords players an addictive interactivity with the game, where things are made possible only through their initiative, and it's moments like telling others to use you as a footstool to climb over a high wall and flank an entrenched enemy that really sell you on Squad's mission statement. When it works, it fucking works, and it compelled me enough to actually put ostensible effort into engaging with it. Usually in these war shooters, I opt for the infantry time and time again. Less is expected of you, and you're constantly involved in the action where the shenanigans are usually going on. In this match with the Australian Defence Force, we were trundling along quite happily until the next objective, when suddenly...
Get on move order.
Ooh, incoming! Incoming!
Yeah, holy shit, we're running. Oh, get out, come on, get the hell out of here. Up the hill.
Jesus! Take cover! Take cover!
We're south side, come on people.
As involving as moments like these are, I hungered for something of greater dedication. Playing as part of an armor crew didn't really appeal to me. The cat and mouse engagements, the mind games being played with opposing armor squads as you try to pinpoint each other's location, they're great, but it often meant you had to sit 30 minutes in the back to get anything done. No, dear viewer, I aspire to heights far greater than just that. Looking to the skies, I realized I wanted to really test myself with helicopters. This aviation vehicle encapsulates the earlier statement. When Squad works, it really fucking works. I'll spare you the torture of my helicopter flying journey, dear viewer. Only for the sick and twisted is there any entertainment to be found in repeatedly watching one's failures. Then again, you are watching this video, however long it may be, so I'll tantalize you sadistic miscreants with one notorious failure of mine. Fuck. Oh my Now that your appetite has been thoroughly sated, let's get to the important stuff. Helicopters. What are they? These military doohickeys hover in the air to establish air superiority, able to move swiftly from point to point without the hindrance of difficult terrain nor physical obstacle. Helicopters in Squad differ per faction and are balanced across their weight. Light helicopters like the Loach or the Huey boast little storage space for ferrying supplies, but are nimbler compared to the heavier helicopters like China's flying school bus known as the Z8G, able to transport up to 1.5k supplies in the hold. Regardless of the specifics, helicopters are extremely valuable assets that can prove invaluable to the team when in the right hands. The observant among you will have noticed one key thing: helicopters fly in the air. Unlike transport trucks and ground-based vehicles, there are no obstacles or pesky enemy combatants waiting to ambush you up in the sky. This means that helicopters are unparalleled for their speed, allowing them to move in direct lines towards their destination at breakneck paces, and this opens up a ton of opportunities regarding logistics. Ground-based logistics are all well and good until you're trying to get supplies to a heavily contested point, or, God forbid, you get cursed with the immobile tracked logistics vehicles.
I want to die.
Helicopters easily circumvent these problems. They can fly extremely fast so they can outpace their land-dwelling brethren and can blow past infantry or vehicles waiting to ambush you. Supply chains are also a matter of consistency. Ammunition reserves can be depleted in mere minutes to support a difficult push. Helicopters can easily move between the main base and FOBs to stockpile reserves in the blink of an an eye, ensuring friendly positions are well stocked to endure prolonged sieges. It also can be generally tricky for infantry to get to ideal FOB positions if the enemy have entrenched themselves well around objectives, able to disable passing trucks en route to establish a camp behind them. The nimble nature of helicopters means not only can aspiring construction crews be swiftly deployed behind the enemy, but also that their radios can be placed instantly and supplies dropped off seconds after to get the ball rolling. This is just one of the disciplines that can be subscribed to with the helicopter to benefit the team. This aviation vehicle's affinity for scouting, supplying and supporting makes the following strategy one of the best to help your team. Air cavalry. Air cavalry tactics revolve around the use of helicopters to rapidly escort and deploy infantry from point to point, relying on the prevailing mobility of airborne transports to gain an edge over an enemy faction that may have picked a greater proportion of ground-based units. One specific faction type, known as the Air Assault Unit, allows several helicopters to spawn during the prep phase as opposed to fewer spawning after a significant time delay for other selected battalions. This also means while one helicopter is used to back-cap objectives, the others can rapidly deploy infantry squads to positions closer to the enemy's main base to camp their first few capture zones before the enemy even gets there. If the enemy team can't secure their first few objectives on random advance and secure, they can't see where the next one is going to be, which then stalls their whole team while yours continue to blaze through them without delay. Air cavalry, when done right, is a tactic that benefits the entire faction no matter what role you play. Infantry are integral to your success because objectives can't be captured from inside vehicles, meaning the only way to seize them is to get bodies on the point. The general downside for infantry is this exposes the fragility of their squishy bodies to fast moving molten lead. It's easy for infantry to get stalled by trivial firefights while pushing from point to point, and on foot, they are rather slow even at a sprint. Air cavalry alleviates the monotony of marching and concentrates the engagements around critical objectives, benefiting the team's war effort overall. Often in combat, you'll see IFVs being used as frontline vehicles the most. LAVs, ZBLs, BMPs, if it's got a 20mm Sabo shell cannon and a general disdain for human life, you can guarantee it's going to ruin your day.
What's up, fuckers?
It's here, watch out, this side.
However, all armor knows the fear of the food chain because they know they're not the one on top of it. Tanks, rolling behemoths that can dish out as much damage as they take, decimate most opposing forces in the blink of an eye. This clip shows exactly that. Even when the LAV blasts the tank with a powerful wire-guided missile, the beast shrugs it off and kills them in a single hit. For this reason, vehicles are terrified of committing to callous assault without knowing where enemy armor is. Air cavalry tactics put a greater number of watchful eyes in the sky, where, from elevated positions, enemy tanks can easily be noticed for friendly armor to outmaneuver and destroy. This means your armor is better prepared to involve themselves in the fight and spending less time molding and chat that their point-and-click adventure game is too hard for them. And, last but not least, helicopters benefit from the fact they get to do something other than watch paint dry. In a considerable amount of time I spent piloting a helicopter and squad, I found myself satisfied often with just doing logistics. I'm a delicate soul with a simple mind, capable only of moving arbitrary numbers from one digital box to another, and any application of the emotional pressure that comes with getting shot at while trying to land turns me into an ugly mess.
I'm extremely overwhelmed!
That being said, I can't deny that infantry hot drops are some of the most fun I have ever had playing this game. In one game on Gorodok, playing as the British Air Forces, we voted for an air assault unit and took turns leapfrogging our infantry from objective to objective, steamrolling the pitiful Turkish land forces and their arsenal of male pattern balding hair treatments. Turkish barbers took to the backline FOBs, removing our radios from existence as if they were healthy hair follicles ready to be extracted and relocated, but we outpaced them before any significant damage could be done. By the time we were finished, the Turks were defeated, their morale skewered like a particularly delectable slab of doner kebab. Truthfully, air cavalry during matches like these really make you understand what squad is about. Organising pickups and drop-offs, relaying intel to tank divisions, coordinating with your fellow pilots to work as attachés to specific squads, it involves you like nothing else. You become part of a well-oiled, thrumming machine, equally as important as everyone else, but not dissuaded by your lack of distinction from them. You are a team, a damn good team, and by cooperating with your teammates, some of which are strangers you will never see again in your mortal life, you make matches that much more enjoyable. It's teamwork, tangible and alive, bringing 50 players together as one to triumph over their foe. These moments are so infectious, so electric, that even when you lose, you can't help but feel like you still had a damn good time doing so. I think a real draw to helicoptering and squad was the fact a minority of players really understood how to effectively use them. There's a deification of mysterious online pilots who dedicate countless hours to mastering an aircraft, wielding control of an unwieldy vehicle, yet always being the one you can rely on to get you and your squad exactly where you need to be. Flying to landing zones and listening to the banter of the soldiers in the back, touching down and hearing them thank you for getting them there in one piece, being praised and counted on as an expert in your lane. There's just something about it, dear viewer. It's in moments like these I realise my tears are shed because of blissful joy.
Go,
Go, go, go, go, go, go, go, go, go, go!
Help! I'm dead!
Oh fuck you, we're alive! We're alive!
But don't become complacent, dear viewer. From a young age, I had to learn an important lesson. Life isn't all sunshine and roses. If you want to be the top dog, you gotta let life hit you with an occasional castration. Because for the few times I've lost a match but felt like I won a little, squad has forced me to experience many more times where I won a match but felt like I lost everything. Unbeknownst to me, climbing into the cockpit introduced me to a purgatory of my own making.
Observant of what happens. What the fuck happened?
If it was on
My
the right
helicopter!
side of the
Part of the reason helicopter piloting is so illustrious is that it's challenging, and in fairness that can be said about every aspect of squad. Vehicles in your mainstream war shooters are usually extremely easy to manage and can be operated completely by a single person, with maybe one more to man an auxiliary weapon as support. Maintaining them is equally as trivial, and any coordinated duo can sweep opposing forces with relative ease. In squad, infantry combat alone is harder than effective use of vehicles in these mainstream war shooters. To crew a vehicle like a mainline battle tank, you need a minimum of 2 people, a driver, a gunner, and maybe a third person to work as the spotter if you're feeling particularly daring. The whole meter works as the vehicle's health bar, but the icons in the bottom right indicate the health of varying systems. It's possible for infantry rocketeers to immobilize armored vehicles with single rounds by hitting close to the engine or knocking out their tracks, which turns even the fearsome tank into a sitting duck for an Obama special.
Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
In fact, to even make use of an armored vehicle's true power, you often have to battle the esoteric nonsense of the scope's rangefinder to know how to even aim it.
What is that?
Many a hat and lat on teams using RPG scopes wildly miss shots, because understanding which one of the 50 different dots in the lens is the one you're meant to be using is impossible to do.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, there it is, there it is. Please tell me it's a hit. Way too low, way too low, way too fucking low, I'm gonna kill myself. There's always a catch with squad's mechanics, and often it's the bullet. It makes you want to fire into your own skull. Helicopters, however, are a league apart. Vehicles may be difficult, but they operate on an understandable premise of just holding W to move forward without much peril. The movement mechanics and overall control of a helicopter can be a lot to acclimatise to, and as extensive as the flight training is, I actually sourced the best amount of help from outside this tutorial. Gorlami 14's 2 flight tutorials on YouTube are a major help, both of which will be linked, and it's how I learned to perform both a basic landing and a J-hook. Aspiring pilots should watch those 2 videos. Second is the helicopter landing training mod by Yoshishu on the Steam Workshop. Jensen's range gives you the flat ground to experiment with the basic concepts, but when you want to actually practice landing in real maps without the worry of middle-aged Central Europeans poorly enunciating slurs at you for crashing repeatedly, this mod allows you that practical experience. I spent a lot of time on the range, and sparing you the whole training arc, I went from someone who could hardly fly in a straight line to someone who can go from 110 knots overhead to a successful landing in around 10 to 15 seconds. Thank you for flying with homosexual airlines, out you get, go, 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 go. There are people who can do that cooler and faster than me, and I'd probably be capable of that too, but while they cling to their virginity, I copulate with their mothers to revel the joys of human intimacy. You just wouldn't get it, dear viewer. Unlike your maternal figure, what you do need to get though is the point I'm trying to make. Pay close attention. Helicopters, as previously established, excel at fast movement. It makes them ideal for transporting troops and resupplying important bases. However, their major downside is that they lack the armor necessary to endure heavy fire. Try to find an infantryman in a dense forest and you'll likely fail. Try to find a tank, it might be a little easier. Trying to find a helicopter is as simple as hearing the characteristic buzz of its engine and looking skyward to find it right there. The higher you are, the more attractive you become to all the hot single armored vehicles ready to perforate your gentle asshole with 20mm Sabo rounds.
I think it just shot at me. Oh shit.
Gentlemen?
Oh yeah, we got me. The tanks aren't the ones to worry about. Most gunners are illiterate and they're just guessing, meaning they'll miss, meaning you have time to fly away. IFV gunners are also illiterate, but the problem is they have a faster rate of trial and error because they don't have to stop firing after one round, meaning even if the first shell was a bad guess, the second one is a lot more educated. This necessitates a strategy of flying as low as possible to limit how exposed you are to enemy fire across the map. This filters a lot of rookie pilots because one of the first landing techniques you need to master is the slow descent, where you kill your engine around 400 meters out and tip your nose upwards 10 degrees to drop off your speed. You increasingly tip backwards to reduce your speed until, ideally, you come to a relative standstill over the landing zone and can finish your descent. This is fine to do in practice, but not so fine to do in a live match. We got shot down right away, guys. This necessitates the bread and butter of a helicopter pilot's repertoire. The beloved J-hook. By turning hard right or left as you approach the landing zone and kill your collective, you dump tons of speed along the turn. You turn your collective back up for a second on the curve to stop you gliding away before dropping it again, bringing you to a complete standstill so you can sail to the ground. This is vital to learn because helicopters, which ideally are moving at 110 knots at low altitudes, can't then make use of the other landing technique without remaining airborne for a long time and attracting unwanted attention. If anything, it's valued as much as a way to lose speed as it is to land the helicopter. It's a technique that took actual hours to learn both at the range and in regular matches, which, even after, still took time to perfect. The main difficulty is, unlike other games, the rotors are extremely fragile and will break if they come into contact with anything nearby. Enemy fire can easily knock out your engine or break your rotors, which, even if you survive the crash, you're likely already swarmed with enemies that saw you go down nearby. It also greatly limits your available landing zones because you can't land anywhere with dense foliage or tightly packed buildings. There are a lot of difficulties to utilizing a helicopter effectively so that the incredible victories of air cavalry tactics can come to pass, because even for the average pilot, a lot is asked of you. The skill floor is higher because it takes more to be able to use it competently. Not everyone can hack it, and when it requires several hours of training to get right, would it surprise you to realize so few even bother to try? So when you get to the faction screen and you see an air assault battalion, a regiment whose success relies upon the flying ability of free blueberries, would you pick it? Would you pick this unit whose skill floor is considerably higher than that of a tank battalion who gets to spawn with more tanks right at the start of a round instead of getting only one after a 30-minute cooldown? Let me answer this with an anecdote. Harju, Russian Motorized Infantry Brigade versus British Parachute Regiment. Because we have 3 helicopters at spawn and the Russians have to wait at least 10 minutes for theirs, we can cover more of the map faster to disrupt their approach. We have the advantage. The 44th have a handy vehicle claiming rule where you can only grab a designated vehicle if you have named your squad after it exactly. You can't just call your squad LAV or Heli, it has to be the exact designation. It works well to stop people using ambiguous language to bullshit their claims to better assets. After I was outpaced in securing a helicopter, I decided to co-pilot with an Eastern European fellow known as Ford Femboy. I foolishly did not have this recorded, so we will have to rely on the extremely high fidelity of this man's recording. Watch closely. The overwhelming number of pixels may have distracted you, but if you look closely, you can see these 2 helicopters both break each other's rotors as they fly out of main. It's time for simple mathematics, dear viewer. Each SA-330 transport helicopter can ferry 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and a squad of 9. That's 13 total tickets. One of them had a commander, so that would be 14 tickets because the commander counts for 2. Each helicopter costs 5 tickets. 13 plus 14 plus 10 equals 2. We lost almost 2 neutral objective captures worth of tickets in mere seconds of the round starting. But wait, it gets worse, because what this clip didn't capture was the 3rd helicopter coming back around to pick up the commander, just to then subsequently crash with them aboard. Oh, bro, our heli just nosedived into the fucking next point. I just saw that. Oh, for fuck's sake. That's another 14 tickets to the total, which equals... We lost over 50 tickets before we had even seen the enemy. This not only sacrificed our mobility advantage that we picked the faction for because our fast-moving helicopters were going to respawn when a Russian helicopter arrived, but also meant even if we took an equal number of objectives at the start of a match, the Russian team had a 50-ticket lead. In the blink of an eye, our decision to pick an air assault battalion royally fucked us, and thusly answered our question. The air assault battalion is hardly ever picked because of the common perception that it actually doubles as a land vehicle. On the dedicated Reddit community for Squad, a user called BurningBeard80 left an enlightening explanation as to why they feel the flight mechanics of Squad leave a little to be desired compared to project realities. I'll link it below for those who want to read it themselves, but I want to focus on a specific side effect they mention here. Apparently, Squad's flight model differs a lot from the likes of Armour and DCS, so those transferable skills you'd expect to allow pilots to pick up and go with helicoptering don't really work. This means instead of having a lot more skilled pilots, we have fewer that actually know what they're doing. Anyone who flies helicopters in Squad knows the first thing the infantryman in the back will mutter is,
No, we're gonna die.
and this isn't totally undeserved. Being driven in a transport truck or a boat both have their risks, but those risks are only posed by enemy combatants. In a helicopter, a pilot who doesn't know what they're doing is far deadlier than any incoming fire. Put it down, put it down, put it down, put it down, put it down! And when Squad is a game where you spend a lot of time moving to where the action is, and where dying means you have to wait around a hot minute on the deployment screen, an unconfident pilot becomes a very unappealing choice. The mid-air collision on Harju is a hilarious anecdote for me, but seriously, what is so tragic about moments like these is that every infantry player involved in that crash will eventually become squad leaders who will never get their team in a helicopter again after the fact. What ends up happening is that unless a squad leader can recognize a specific player name as a trustworthy driver, most infantry refuse to board helicopters, meaning most aspiring pilots end up only ever working as a glorified lodgy driver. As we mentioned before, helicopters are fragile, so this means FOBs that are in line of sight of the enemy, if your team has bothered to build any, become impossible to reach without being shot down. An experience made ubiquitous of helicoptering as a result is being a bench warmer. Sitting back at main, repeatedly radioing the command channels to remind players they have air assets available for use, and being ignored because no one trusts you to do it. Even if players were fine with taking a helicopter, not everyone wants to go back to main base to hop in one, or disengage from the fun firefight they're in to board it at a nearby landing zone, so unless your helicopter spawned at the start and a squad boarded there, you're shit out of luck. It's frustrating, but really, I can't say I don't understand this aversion to air cavalry tactics and picking an air assault battalion. When the skill floor has been yanked so much higher for a strategical gain that lacks the raw firepower and presence of a tank platoon or patrol group, why would you not choose something else? Why would you want to play as a faction whose advantage becomes increasingly situational? Maps like Scorpo are impossible to land on, anything in the desert has every armoured vehicle on the map shooting at you from miles away, some of them, helicopters just don't spawn, and any match on Al-Basra is immediately FOBA. Do you want to know what the Al-Basra helicopter experience is? Engine, fuck, go, 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 I'm going down! I feel so cucked from aviation greatness with this game sometimes that I shit you not, I will go on Ravenfield, boot up one of my game presets meticulously made to mimic Squad, and fly helicopters there to escape that self-inflicted hell. And you know what's fucked up? I still can't catch a fucking break! A consequence of this that BurningBeard80's Reddit post neglected to mention was that, as a result of so few people bothering with Squad's helicoptering and setting their expectations based on TikTok pilot compilations, it increases the level of insane demands made of you from squad leaders. A commander near Horivka asks me, along with two other helis, to drop off infantry right at the enemy team's first point to stall them during our back cap. This is a naturally risky move because we're flying right into enemy forces, so we fly in, and as expected, my rotor is shot out and I crash into the ground, to which the commander, who told me to do this, says,
Squad 3 man, what the fuck was that? Was it like a 10-second J-hook?
Squad leaders will often give me landing zones inside dense forests, and while flying I have to find an alternate LZ to drop off the infantry to then regroup on where they want to build the radio, just for the squad leader to change the location 15 times, which eventually causes me to break my rotors on the trees I'm trying to avoid, which beckons every enemy IFV in a mile radius to rush over and finish me off. There are matches where I spend half my playtime in a ditch pushing the helicopter out because my lack of spine and desperate need for approval makes me acquiesce to orders that are complete dog shit. Guys who don't even know the word collective, assigning you the most impossible missions imaginable and getting angry when you fail to achieve them. This makes them indignant to your airborne proclivities, which in turn swears them off using air assets, which in turn means you get stuck back at main base twiddling your thumbs. You want to know the worst part? If you're at main base for more than a second trying to find a useful point to resupply or a squad to pester into flying with you, you become a magnet for the local homeless population. Players who had been AFK during the prep phase or those who didn't get in a vehicle then make their inattentiveness your problem by regarding you as the local taxi service, asking to be dropped off at the front where you are guaranteed to perish.
Hey, Squad 2, can you drop me off with my squad?
Who the fuck is this? Sometimes, rather innocently, they want to be your designated door gunner. The problem is the helicopter's door guns are practically firing blanks, and even when they're useful, best thing they can do is gun down logi trucks and lone infantry. The close air support capabilities of a helicopter are extremely limited, and all that letting a blueberry use them does is advertise to every lat, hat, IFV and tank nearby that you are ready to receive a hot load of hatred. So, often, you are stuck with a crew of randoms in your helicopter announcing your location everywhere you go, even when you tell them to not fire the guns randomly. This happens, without fail, time and time again, and this has gotten to a point where I've had people board my helicopter and tantamount declare squatters' rights. In this batch of PMC versus USMC, I had a trio of delightful fellows from the floating trash patch of North America board my helicopter. Is there a guy in here with me? Who the fuck are you? As I flew around, they made very subtle suggestions that their friend take the helicopter instead, as he was the best pilot on the west side of the Mississippi.
Yeah, if you want, we can have my friend over here take it. He's the best pilot. I've got another one. He's right here.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
You know, you're from the other side of the pond.
He's a ranked leaderboard pilot.
Oh, I see. I'm sure you're very, very skilled. These guys were very obviously just trying to cause problems. I don't see a past username like this and assume they're particularly reasonable people, or that they even know how to spell Mississippi, so I just ignored their bullshit and continued on. It had been a while since I played, so my performance was rather wonky, which made them a lot more aggressive than anticipated, enough so that they shed the subtlety and outright demanded I give them the helicopter, or they're calling the admins for wasting assets.
Why are you going right now?
I'm trying to mark where he is.
I had it stuck on the map.
Hey, yeah, we take the heli next round, brother. Don't even worry about it.
I don't think so. You don't have the claim, young man.
Cover your peen. Cover your peen.
Oh, we can get the claim.
Staff. Yeah.
Well, that's very unfortunate.
For you, yeah, it really is.
Ooh, very scary.
I was in a bit of a predicament. I could have muted them, sure, but two of the trio were on the door guns, and the level of spite they regarded me with became an obvious indicator that taking off with them in the back would mean both door guns announcing my position constantly for the sake of me getting shot down. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of an argument, nor did I want to placate their egos by trying to ask them to leave, so instead I pretended to be AFK in the hopes they'd get bored and leave the vehicle. Oh, sorry, something's going on. I just need to see to it, so I'm just gonna be here for a sec. I want to see how long they stay. I'm amused.
Oh, no, I gotta talk to a staff member now. What a shame.
Oh no, he's gotta talk. They weren't here for slow, bro. They couldn't turn up for me.
Yeah, we need a staff member. Look,
yeah,
he's AFK, you know, he's with asset wasting right now.
Is this so...
We've been sitting here for a good one.
Why is everyone
Yeah, I know. All these troops, and he can't go on. Well, I'm sorry, y'all. If you wanted a ride, I would get out while you still can.
Why are you still here?
One AFK.
Hey, can we get an admin?
I can't believe this is...
So I can take over.
They haven't even... If I got a squad 8, they haven't claimed the heli. Like, they're not a heli squad. They don't know shit.
Well, I mean, that other, roach or whatever, other heli's gonna spawn in about 5 minutes. We'll sit here and wait till this card gets
Incredibly wild.
It's typical admin wasting, I tell ya. Or asset wasting, excuse me.
They're just a bunch of trolls, man. Yeah, I've got kicked. Yeah, but man, I don't feel confident enough to fucking fly with a bunch of bozos in the back. I assumed raising my collective and dropping it quick enough for the helicopter to not move would let the game think I'm still there, which, unfortunately, I guessed wrong. I'll never know what happened to these three fellows, but, in my head, I like to dream there were three stooges west of the Mississippi flew right into a loving tank shell and uninstalled the game from the shame. The point of this anecdote isn't necessarily these guys. You find assholes online, what's new? But the fact I had little way to do anything about them. Helicopters are already in such a fragile position, and the lack of a squad lock or ability to prohibit people boarding the helicopter unprompted is especially infuriating. As if flying helicopters isn't maddening enough on its own, I have to reckon with the fact my vehicle, one of the few that doesn't need a crew to effectively operate it, constantly ends up with one regardless of my consent on the matter. I don't think it defeats the team-oriented design of Squad to be able to allow pilots to shut their doors, especially when there is practically no functionality available to kick people from your vehicle if you need to, and especially after I had to fight tooth and nail to get the name claim before anyone else. Helicopters, as of right now, are in a really delicate position. To me, air cavalry tactics are one of the best strategies available to the team, but the issues mentioned prior means they're often never used in that capacity, and more than that, often never even picked. It should be noted that this is likely to change once Off-World Industries adds a wider selection of close air support helicopters, which I imagine will naturally drive up the number of pilots aspiring to splatter players all over the ground, and consequently improve the overall appeal of helicoptering as a whole. But until then, these problems persist. I don't think it's even an issue that Squad's flight model is too hard to grasp and should be made easier, not at all. I personally like it how it is. I just think helicopters have been put in an oddly impotent spot, more so than helicopters were in Project Reality. I've seen clips of helicopters having troops rappel from the cargo holds, watched as they've sailed overhead and dropped a crate of supplies onto surrounded infantrymen as part of a logistical drive-by, and I just don't understand why that functionality was ever ignored. Perhaps they were worried it would eliminate the need for landing to drop off soldiers so players could ignore that important aspect of the training entirely, but that makes little sense to me. Landing provides for helicopter cover, obstructing the enemy's line of sight, whereas hovering overhead continues to announce your presence to any passing foes. When able, I usually opt to land instead of hover for that exact reason. I genuinely adore playing as the helicopter pilot, and truly think the game would stand to benefit from making transport helicopters a more common addition to all faction specialties. Anything longer than a 10-minute wait time, regardless of the division you've chosen, assumes a strength of air assets that they just don't have right now. It's almost insulting to see that some battalions will make you wait half an hour for a single helicopter. After the menagerie of social ailments piloting suffers from in this game, in what world is it reasonable to expect someone to wait for a helicopter for the same amount of time it takes to get access to a tank? This really became the crux of why the tiers Squad shared are so ambiguous in nature, dear viewer, because the vitriol helicopters often receive from the rest of the team stems from a refusal to try and work together. Even when we're tens of tickets behind and we're on the back foot and we desperately need to pivot if we want to win, squad leaders don't want to liaise with you to try and land behind the enemy and create an FOB, because they'd rather pursue meaningless gunfights away from the objectives. It illuminates a refusal to adapt, to detour when necessary, to use the basic communication to just go, no, we're alright for now, instead of leaving me on red the whole fucking match. It's the fact that I know firsthand when it works, it really fucking works, but regularly no one tries to get helicopters to do that because of everything else I just wasted your time speaking about. And this aviator's conundrum, born off the back of the social dynamics of Squad, brings us to an important point. When everything in Squad is directed by the player, when victories and defeats are determined only by player choice, when it's not just your decisions but those of the soldiers around you affecting your success, one has to wonder what sort of community a game like this earns itself.
Right in front of us, right in front of us. Yep.
Yeah, I like that. You got very soft soul hands. Shh, I won't tell anybody.
You won't tell anybody, but I heard a bitch. Oh. It's been a good few years since I've started this channel, dear viewer. I've gone from expressing my repugnant opinions online for the sake of chasing clout to expressing my repugnant opinions online for the sake of airing genuine fetishes through the guise of ironic humour. Along the way, you've likely noticed a lot of my videos make mention of the game's community, and usually, they're not always so positive in what they have to say of a wildlife beholden to a specific title. Mainly this is owed to the fact things such as racism and general bigotry are not found in short supply in online gaming spaces. It's usually synonymous with the identities of Call of Duty, CS:GO and Overwatch which they garnered for themselves, and the whole online idea of capital G gamers is born from the prevalence of noxious toxicity.
I don't want to hear nobody talk about no black people if you ain't black.
Shut up, bruh. Shut up, bruh. Being a dude, you'll be a and that's nothing you can ever do about it. You'll be black for the rest of your life.
So, when I was getting into Squad for the first time, my experiences in the communities of military simulation and tactical shooters prepared me for a lot of this.
Skibbity.
Kill the America, kill that.
Whoa, okay,
What?
alright, mute Marius. Oh my. And this.
Together.
Whoa. And especially this.
Before we start, please, if you're not white, get the fuck out of my squad.
What the fuck?
I'm not gonna play with Arabs, Turkish, Indian,
What?
anything that's not white. I'm not
What
gonna
the
play with
fuck?
you. Because if I notice one of you's brown, I'm just gonna kick you out of the head.
If someone likes fried chicken and watermelon, is that an indication or?
Bro, I'm starting to have the feeling that you are brown. That I join English servers because I'm avoiding these brown people.
Oh, misclick, fuck, my bad, sorry.
Team kill.
My mission's complete. There's no doubt in my mind there are a lot of people like this in Squad's community, savants of all sorts of slurs, and my username, homosexual intent, my mantle of greatness.
Love the name, by the way.
Thank you, it's my birth name. 87 tickets for it.
It's the best name ever.
Oh, thank you very much, thank you. It's the name I was given from birth, it's my family name.
No, thank you, dude.
I really like your name, homosexual intent.
You like the name? Thank you.
Yes.
Works as the perfect litmus test to discern who among me is chill and who among me needs to be launched out of a cannon. That being said, I can't grade a community's quality based on what I assume a military simulation game attracts. It's only fair to do so based on what I've actually experienced, how often divisive losers try to ingratiate themselves and pull us away from playing the game. And, dare I say it, I think I quite like Squad's community.
Allahu Akbar.
If that guy's named Coming Cider, I want a drink of that, what the fuck? The main cause for why this is comes down to a simple comparison. If you try and talk in any mainstream shooter, you are either met with silence or the Westboro Baptist Church. If you try and talk in Squad, you may need to sit down for this, you can actually talk to other people.
I like the big Chungus rabbit, very funny. A big bunny, I will call him Chungus.
I had to. Oh, brother. Come on. Come on, dude. He can't be serious. Alright. It's alright, it's okay. We're moving.
Thank you for touching me.
Now, I can't be sure this is the case for the whole game. Squad runs on a server-by-server basis, netting different communities, and I imagine the 44th are an outlier in actually caring to discipline people who step out of line. But I can be sure that it genuinely surprised me to see that, outside of the helicopter squatters and our Disco Elysium truck driver here, these are extremely fringe cases. It's rare, at least anecdotally, to find people who are so thoroughly nasty and ruin the experience. In my mind, it's because the sort of people who want to grief games or just be a problem for others have to go through so many hoops to do that because of Squad's design, so would rather just fuck off elsewhere to be a pissant where it's easier. Also, in my mind, I've realised I can never bring myself to truly hate blueberries. Yes, my complaints about their competencies persist, and sometimes the affinity they have for fucking everything up becomes a magnificent performance art, but games like Squad would be nothing without their social antics. Since my halcyon days in Foxhole, it's always been the contingent of blueberry roleplayers that have put a smile on my face during long gaming sessions.
Why would you do that?
Across the bridge to the south of it.
A classic of all these games is when a player goes down and starts to reenact a death scene from Saving Private Ryan. No! Don't go into the light! No, don't go into the light! When playing the Insurgent faction, blueberries really lean into their characters, and you will find a wealth of squad members that double as the transport truck's living orcs called. Dismount! There is no more important a resource than the synergy of straight vibes. What the fuck? They're jumping jacks on each other, bro. Look at it. There's always a bout of comedically timed explosives.
Negative. Let's go.
Whoa!
Okay, keep digging.
A healthy dose of homoeroticism sourced for medical intervention.
You're getting touched up.
Yeah, and I like it. What about it, bitch? An inescapable constant of friendly fire. Frag out, bitch! Oh, brother. Oh, no. Oh! Sorry, that's my bad. I shot you. And of course, completely comprehensible communication.
Jonestown, you please, kill your own family. Jonestown, generations of future families.
My all-time guilty pleasure, however, is a naughty blueberry, a force of chaos, not ensnared by the rules, acting without allegiance or rational cause. This is manifest in a specific instance of a rowdy blueberry known as Slowbra.
I'll try to make my way to come pick you guys up with the lodgy here.
I'm at 8, but I feel bad for everyone.
We'll be back with your shots.
For context, a match of random advance and secure lasts around 40 minutes, even when one side is obviously losing. This match went so bad for us, it lasted around 20 minutes, and we have only Slowbra to thank for that. This gentleman spoke in a forcibly stilted manner and conveyed very interesting orders to his squad.
Among other things, there is team killing of the other squads, but we birds stick to feather.
I could tell it was a gag because at one point you can audibly hear him try to stifle his laughter.
Take both vehicles now.
I can hear you laughing, bro. I can hear you laughing. He was a wild one. Running people over with his car, driving his squad into enemy fights, he cared not for strategy. He even got voted commander, which, let me tell you, we were really starved for choice. Oh, he's commander.
Hoorah!
But this is just the start. His main act of rebellion against the team he was meant to lead was ambushing our 2 air assets. He'd climb into a truck, wait for the helicopters to fly towards the helipads, and greet them with a warm hug.
Oh, what are you doing?
Commander, what did you do to the heli, bro?
I need a getaway vehicle now.
Why are you doing this? Oh, that clip? That was just the failed attempt.
You're welcome to the master of this crap.
Oh no, this is not good. Oh my god, I'm dying.
This happened more than once.
I have faith in your driving skills. Oh my fucking god.
Oh, he's doing it again. Take off, take off, take off. He's doing it again. Take off. Take
All helicopters are now banned.
Now, of course, Slowbro deserved punishment, and I imagine the pilots were rightfully annoyed. He forsook the rules and sabotaged our team. Naughty, very bad, morally contemptible. A bit of roleplay is fine here and there, but sometimes, just sometimes, I'd like for people like Slowbro to roleplay as a winning fucking team.
I have still won us the game.
However, it was hilarious as shit, and this match recording is never leaving my hard drive. Godspeed, Slowbro. Godspeed. But this is more than me just finding ways to justify the multitude of miscellaneous squad clips I have at my disposal. A fraction of what I say does have a point to it, and we're in luck, dear viewer, because this spiel does too. Around a month ago, I stumbled across this tremendous animated short film by a YouTube channel called Zen. The animation, dubbed only VIP, showcased an extensive firefight between a private security team and an onslaught of assassins attempting to slay their asset. It's a blast of a project. There's a believable desperation and disorientation to the firefights that elevate the tension, and I really recommend you check it out for yourself. The reason I invoke it here is because of how it depicts teamwork. It's not an endless display of action movie antics where a protagonist single-handedly destroys their enemy. In this animation, characters rely on one another to get out of tough situations. They provide cover, they stack on one another, they don't flag their own guys when they cross, even the villains will rush out to protect a wounded guy and get them to safety. It's more than just the tactical flair for the sake of aesthetic, it's the humanity of teamwork. It's the prevailing social nature of people to try and work together and the importance of that drive to collaborate when your back is against the wall. It makes it so much more involving, exciting, and utterly evocative of our fragile mortality that makes the story seem fair game between protagonist and antagonist, not skewed in the hero's favour. It makes it just that more enjoyable to watch. This is the exact reason I love Squad. The fact I have all these positive anecdotes to share only is a result of what Offworld Industries has done to create a game where teamwork is the prevailing constant. For engagements, resupplies, transport, even something as small as marking the correct spot on the map for enemy units, you are forced to rely and trust in the abilities of your battle buddies. Victory is a collaborative endeavour, and it requires the team effort necessary to truly wield combined arms with effectiveness. I played Squad with a bunch of people from the channel Discord back in January, with people who had picked up Squad but didn't find it particularly compelling to play alone. We had an entire stack of people playing together, most of which weren't partial to military shooters anyway, and despite that it was an experience where I could tell everyone had a good time. Squad's core gameplay loop involves you in something, in fraternization and socialization, where even at its most boring, something is always happening. I've partaken in games of legendary scale, where victory was achieved by a matter of a handful of tickets. In one match, we're spawning out in a desert, our tank crews are all over the place, and we're using tracked logistics. From the get-go, it's not looking very good, and it feels like a losing match.
Not seeing anything so far.
Right in front of us.
Oh my god, no, there it is.
It's over, it's over.
I don't even know where they're shooting from.
Oh, fuck! Cruel Northwest, cruel Northwest! We fight tooth and nail to hold North outskirts through a firefight that lasts the entire game. IFVs are driving circles around us, mortars are raining down on our heads, FOBs are collapsing as quickly as they're being built, and the street outside is a massacre. The taste of encroaching defeat became irrefutably noticeable as time went on. And yet, just a few minutes from the end of the game, a dot on the horizon, a helicopter, bored out of its mind, decided to do a low-flying CAS run on our position and slammed right into the ground. Minutes later, we win the game. No way! No way!
It's not possible. It's not
How did they lose that? How did they lose that? What? The difference is down to 5 tickets. The same cost as a helicopter. We were in disbelief. None of us thought we were going to win it, and we all celebrated in the chat to commemorate how we pulled through. Victory can never be attributed to the success of just the individual. Matches are so long and are comprised of so many lone actions that it's simply impossible to know. But it always makes you feel involved, like you were part of the reason it happened, like your presence meant something, even if you were just firing a mortar at a backline FOB or transporting supplies between points. Even in matches where our team loses, it's not the endgame verdict you're competing for. It's the moments between a game starting and ending, the intensity of the skirmishes and the desperation of the smoke-covered pushes that keep you mesmerized by the action throughout, even during especially infuriating rounds. And it stands to reason that why I feel this way, why anyone feels this way, is because this sort of gameplay style of collaboration creates a genuine sense of alliance, a squad, a team, for once in a game, a fucking community. I get so mad about the ever-ensuing march of these mainstream war shooters and mainstream multiplayer games generally because despite the fact these are experiences catering only to multiplayer, I increasingly feel like it's single player. The rampant toxicity means you can hardly talk to others even without an obvious bait username like mine. The gameplay style means everyone is running off doing their own thing because the game is scared to make you be impotent in any way, and the increasing lobby sizes, 32 player, 64 player, 128 player, only widens the chasms between me and other people in a match. I haven't mentioned Chivalry 2 directly in almost a year now. I think enough has been said about that nightmare, but really one of the most saddening things about it is that yeah, Team Objective is a fun mode of nonsense and chaos, but I don't feel like I'm really playing with anyone. The matches get bigger, but the interactivity, the communication, the teamwork, the presence of other players that make multiplayer games novel, it feels like it's vanished. It's like we're all in the same hall, all playing on the same server, but we're partitioned into opaque office cubicles. You know you're with others, you can hear them calling you slurs just beside you, but you can't ever connect with them. I kind of feel bad for console players now, because all these guys ever get is the office cubicle experience. Games where you just kind of do your own thing, and the only way you know other people are playing is when they're accosting you over nothing. The fact the new upcoming Battlefield lets you drag incapacitated soldiers away into cover is just proof that there is hunger for this sort of game. There is a slumbering mainstream appeal for these features that champion teamwork and coordination waiting to awaken and shake things up a little bit. Arma Reforged's release on console is an even greater testimony to the fact console players are ready for more. They want more, and Squad is more. Squad is more than just the veneer of realism, more than just a slapdash edition of a popular aesthetic, and it really gets you thinking as to what fictional settings it could meaningfully service with this gameplay style. There is already a mod called Galactic Contention where you play as droids and clones from the Clone Wars, and I can absolutely see it going a step further. Squad hasn't just got something good here, it's got fucking promise, potential, power. It really says something that my worst ever experiences with Squad haven't been because it's designed to be arbitrarily cruel to its players just for the sake of novelty, but really when other players refuse to engage with Squad's premise. When they try to farm meaningless kills, chasing firefights far away from objectives, prioritizing their own fleeting fun over the team's success to try and make Squad something it isn't. On occasion, conversations pop up about whether Squad needs to lighten the load a little bit to better appeal to a mainstream shooter audience, and with all respect to anyone maybe here who thinks that, anyone who suggests this is a complete idiot, and they're not going to stick around for the game anyway. I love the YouTube channel Daniels, I walk around quoting him all the time, but there's one clip that enunciates my point very well on his second channel where he's being accosted by a polite admin for running away from his team. The video is an inherent complaint you can't play games your own way anymore, and it pisses me off so bad. I mean it, I can feel blood vessels rupturing even now just talking about it, because the game he is playing is Postscriptum, a team-oriented World War II tactical shooter. The amount of daylight robbery victims the gaming industry generates now is insane, so I completely sympathize that if you buy a game, you want to be able to have your own fun with it, but there comes a point where I simply have to question why you would knowingly pick something like Squad if you want to run around doing your own thing. There are other games that do that better. It's like turning up to a spiral staircase in a fucking wheelchair. Squad's unique identity in that it asks something of players, that it makes them so feeble they have to rely on their team and work with them, is what makes it worth playing at all. It's booting up the game to partake in fantastic matches, to revel in victory and sob through defeat, and knowing you actually were involved in it that makes it so admirable a game. It's the fact you are important in some front of a battle somewhere, and not just doing your own thing next to 63 other players spending half the time looking at a scoreboard. I greatly anticipate what comes next for the game. I'll be there every step of the way, and inevitably when the tears keep flowing, I can only hope it will continue for the best of reasons. When all is said and done, it's Squad's meticulously thought out and deliberate appeal to the joy of teamwork in a market of self-centered boredom that tides me over. This is why Squad makes me want to cry. Thank you very much for watching to the end of the video, dear viewer. This took quite a bit of suffering to get done. Resolve, for whatever reason, didn't want to play nice, so it practically spent the entirety of my time on the project hemorrhaging frames during the playback for no reason. I have no clue why it's doing it, which made it incredibly painful to try and go back through my video to make sure it was good. Despite that, I had a ton of fun with this video across all fronts, and I really hope it's convinced you to also cry at how great this shooter is, and maybe even try it out for yourself. I wanted to do my due diligence and again mention that while the thumbnail is drawn fully by me, I went and I replicated the image fully and I didn't trace anything. It is a derivative of the original work by Stedelnik on both Twitter and Blue Sky. If you're a regular, you no doubt already know them because I'm bringing them up at every point, but new viewers may not, so if you are curious as to who made the original piece and maybe want to check them out yourself, I want to effectively communicate that this is the person who did it. In other news, I likely won't be uploading for another couple months because now I need to pivot back to working on the book series. I'm looking to get it finished by June or July of this year, so I'm not going to have time to dedicate to a new upload. Rest assured that this channel is a major passion of mine, so if I'm not posting, it's either because something else needs to be urgently done, or I'm dead, and last I checked, I'm not dead, so I think we're fine for now. Again, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do support it however you can, it means a lot to the channel, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Bye bye.